Hey everyone, welcome to today's Explainer. I am so thrilled you're joining me because today we're doing something a bit different. We are skipping the spreadsheets and stepping right out onto the loading zone. To truly understand food access and insecurity right here in Manatee County, we have to look directly at the front lines. So we're going to crack open the Helping Hands Outreach 2025 mission script to see exactly what is happening in our community, why it's happening, and the absolutely profound difference a focused community effort makes.
So picture this. It's a Thursday morning in Bradenton. Between 9:30 a.m. and 2 p.m., over 400 families line up at these doors. The line of cars stretches way out down the block, with folks arriving long before the doors even open. In fact, mid-distribution registrations regularly hit 350. You really kind of have to stop and ask yourself, what brings so many people to one single place, week after week? Well, the source reveals it's this intense mix of severe economic pressure and a deeply human desire for connection. Yes, they are waiting for practical, heavy boxes of food, but they're also waiting for dignity, a warm greeting, the reassurance that someone actually cares.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is how we're breaking down today's explainer. First, a decade of growing need. Second, the hidden drivers of local hunger. Third, the human side of hunger. And fourth, exactly how you can help today.
Starting with Section 1, a decade of growing need. The staggering climb from 2013 to 2025.
And this brilliantly illustrates what we're talking about. When Helping Hands Outreach started tracking this back in 2013, it was a pretty intimate mission, serving just 351 clients for the whole year. But as global and local pressures mounted, that number just shot up to 9,742 in 2020. And by 2025, we're looking at an astonishing 29,099 clients served. It's an absolute exponential explosion of local families needing direct, immediate help.
To really wrap your head around the logistics here, just think about the sheer physical weight of this operation. Back in the small 2013 operation, they distributed 30,000 pounds of food annually. By last year, in 2025, that skyrocketed to nearly 1.5 million pounds. That's over 1 million pounds of goods, and here's the crazy part. This massive volume is moved entirely by hand. It relies completely on community partnerships. We're talking constant truck deliveries from Feeding Tampa Bay and the Food Bank of Manatee, plus weekly retail pickups from local Walmart, Publix, and Target stores. It's a massive logistical puzzle.
So what does 1.5 million pounds actually mean for a family? It translates directly to 300,000 meals for families of 4. That number right there is the true scale of the operation. It's ensuring that thousands of dinner tables in the county actually have food on them tonight.
Moving right along to Section 2, hidden drivers of local hunger. We're decoding the systemic barriers.
If you just glance at the baseline poverty rate, you might think, okay, things are manageable. But that totally hides the geographic reality of what's going on. Based on 2026 data, 21.4% of residents live in low food access areas. That means over a fifth of our neighbors are living in zones flagged by the USDA as literal food deserts. Whether they're along the Wanaco corridor or out in those rural areas east of I-75, they are just too far from a full-service supermarket. The sheer distance to fresh, affordable food is just a huge daily hurdle.
Now, what's really interesting about this is this single, deceptively small number, 4%. That's the percentage of households in the county that have zero access to a vehicle. When you combine living miles away from a grocery store with having absolutely no car, you take a mathematically manageable drive and turn it into an impossible daily barrier. A lot of these families are seniors or they have small kids. They can't just pop over to the store. They have to rely on really pricey convenience stores within walking distance, which leaves them entirely dependent on outreach ministries to bridge that gap.
When you pull the whole picture together, you realize hunger here is driven by these compounding structural issues. Working families are squeezed incredibly tight by rising housing and insurance costs, leaving literally zero budget for groceries. You've got the massive transportation gaps we just talked about, combined with eastward residential growth that is totally outpacing the food infrastructure. And to top it off, there are over 80 food providers in the county, creating this highly fragmented ecosystem with overlapping or super limited hours. It forces families into a highly stressful daily survival mode, just trying to figure out when and where they can get some help.
Which brings us to Section 3, the human side of hunger, moving beyond the statistics.
When a family finally reaches the front of that loading zone line, they don't just get a token handout of snacks. No way. They leave with a 50-pound box of meaningful, substantial food. Because helping hands increase their storage capacity, they're handing out true staples. We're talking cooking oil, spaghetti, chicken, mac and cheese, black beans, and fresh salad. Handing out high-quality ingredients like that creates immediate, genuine breathing room. The money that a family would have spent on groceries can now be redirected to paying rent, covering those skyrocketing utility bills, or buying necessary medicine for their kids.
And you have to ask, who is picking up these boxes? It's not just an anonymous crowd. Asking for help is incredibly hard, right? It's wrapped in stress and embarrassment, but the volunteers meet them with a warm smile and a familiar face. They get to learn the deeply personal realities of the people waiting. They meet a father reeling from a sudden illness, or a single mom struggling to feed her kids who lost her car after a devastating job loss, forcing her to rely entirely on this outreach because the nearest supermarket is a 5-mile walk away. These quick, caring conversations ease the burden and essentially tell these folks you are not forgotten.
And that consistent decade-long presence builds real trust. One highly dedicated longtime volunteer shared this exact quote, and I love this. "Serving here is a privilege." Over time, the volunteers stop treating the people in line like numbers, and they start knowing them by name. Knowing these personal stories transforms what could just be a simple distribution line into a profound, deep community relationship.
And honestly, that relationship goes both ways. Another volunteer, who has been there since way before the pandemic, noted that the people serving eventually realize they receive way more from the work than they actually give. That beautifully highlights the profound emotional rewards of doing this. When you step out of your busy schedule to just pay attention to your neighbor, you become part of something so much larger. The immense gratitude you see from these families is a constant reminder that the simplest acts of kindness carry enormous, life-changing value.
Let's move to our final part, Section 4, and see how this all builds, how you can help today, stepping up for the community.
To keep meeting this massive scale of need, the frontline operation urgently needs you to step forward into some specific, critical roles. They need tech help to manage the tablet applications so they can smoothly register hundreds of clients. They need manual labor, strong hands to prepare those heavy 50-pound boxes, pick up food from retail stores, and organize the freezers. They also desperately need folks directing that heavy Thursday traffic safely and people to help manage the thrift store. Literally, whatever your skill is, there is a place for it here.
And beyond the technical and manual roles, there is a vital, urgent need for language skills. Because the Manatee County community is so beautifully diverse, the outreach desperately needs volunteers who speak Spanish, French, or Creole. Ensuring that every single family feels heard, respected, and completely understood is an absolute cornerstone of providing care with dignity. Okay, so here is your straightforward step-by-step guide to getting involved today. Step 1. Identify your skill. Are you good with tech, manual labor, or languages? Step 2. Commit to a Thursday frontline shift between 9:30 and 2 o'clock. Step 3. Show up and help deliver those 50-pound boxes and vital hope to local families. It is that direct and it is that impactful.
I'll leave you with this final provocative thought. We know the food is there and the mission is absolutely clear. But with over 400 families waiting outside those doors every single week, dealing with skyrocketing rents and impossible geographic distances just to feed their children, will you step up and be the helping hand our community desperately needs? They have the food, but they need you to deliver the hope. Thanks so much for joining me to explore this vital explainer, and I really hope this inspires you to step onto the front lines. See you next time.